And from a personal standpoint, I've had a couple opportunities where our folks have had some difficult calls, and they reflected back on a recent training we had done that maybe we hadn't done in a few years, that kept their mind fresh and kept them on task to get the job done efficiently. So Jordan, thank you for your efforts. Oh yeah.
Get in there. I got a picture again. Good.
Next is the Admin Support Employee of the Year, Michael Sheehan. An administrative or operational support employee who contributed significantly to the district during the past year. The recipient of this award will be committed to excellence and dedicated to the betterment of the district. Mike was nominated for providing dependable on-call fleet support beyond normal hours, which he does all the time, keeping our entire fleet up and running by himself. And he's just known for his professionalism, his strong team spirit, and most of all, his quiet patience with the knuckleheads he has to pick. Mike's no longer alone. We've got a young apprentice for him, so hopefully you won't have so many after hours calls and you'll actually take a vacation.
Well, that'd be cool.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, hold the tag, hold the tag. All right.
Next, we have our Customer Service Award. And that goes to Kirk Reddell. Here you go. That's the operational, administrative, or support employee who keeps the needs of internal and external customers first while balancing the interests of the organization. Our CRR division has been in flux and facing a lot heavier workload with new construction and Firewise requests and permitting and everything else. And Kirk has been nominated for leading with consistency and taking on multiple roles. He's got about 4 hats he wears, and we appreciate it. He's quick to address public concerns and access issues. Our community risk reduction division is probably the most outward facing group besides our firefighters. The difference is our firefighters are called to help somebody in an emergency, so there's an expectation, and generally they help so the public's happy. Well, with CRR, we're the barrier sometimes of getting your dream home built or your business up and running. And Kirk has made sure that we do the best we can to keep our community wheels grinding. And so he also maintains strong communication with staff and community. He's very open and very helpful. And we appreciate that more than you know and more than we let on. So thank you.
Mr. Benz. Give me a hold off one. Thank you.
Now we have the Outstanding Citizen or Community Organization, and that goes to the local 3690 Honor Guard. And Engineer Lily is going to come up and accept on behalf. So this award recognizes citizens or local organizations that exhibit outstanding achievement, community service, and partnership. The local 3690 Honor Guard is made up of fire personnel from Sedona Fire and surrounding agencies. Predominantly right now, the staffing of the Honor Guard is Sedona Fire District employees. And as the lead of the Honor Guard, Jeremy works countless hours facilitating everything from retirement ceremonies to funerals to honor watches, which is where we make sure there's somebody at the funeral home for somebody that's passed until they move on to the graveside. And we've had some challenges this year with some loss of life. And the Honor Guard, time and time again, and being an Honor Guard member and now the fire chief, that the opportunity whenever there's a regional need. Jeremy's quick to communicate with me. And that's critical because without that quick communication, we can't get the resources set up. And a lot of times they'll ask for a fire truck and a lot of logistical support. And his clear communication and the honor guard's commitment to their duty make sure that we honor those that have fallen and those that have made it to retirement efficiently and make sure we make people proud. So I appreciate the work of the honor guard and your efforts.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. First one was a little soft handshake. All right, next is a unit citation. And I'd like to call up Cooper Carr, Brent Johnson, and Lars. Unit citation is an SFD operational crew unit or group that has demonstrated outstanding performance of their duties, well above and beyond the standard. Now, these three clowns, they run our technical rescue program, soup to nuts, bumper to bumper. That's swift water, that's rope rescue, that's helicopter rescue, that's everything we do out off the roads, in the dirt, on the rocks to facilitate rescue of citizens and visitors alike. These guys have worked hard the past year to standardize our TRT procedures and policies, bring on new equipment to increase efficiencies and reduce weight. And when these guys out here got to hug a bag of goods up the hill to facilitate a rescue, 5 pounds matters. And the work they put into making sure we have the equipment we need and it's safe and efficient has been huge. They brought on board an enhanced helicopter rescue program to align with the Department of Public Safety upgrading their aircraft to having a hoist, which is basically a winch versus a rope dangling underneath it. And that was a huge lift, and we've become a regional resource for rescue in the Department of Public Safety, further highlighting the expertise of Sedona Fire. And just district-wide, we're a unique bunch and where all of our operational staff are trained to the operational level and technical rescue. And that's unique to fire districts, and that wouldn't have happened without the efforts of you guys. So thank you. He agrees. For picture.
Get in there, get closer. There you
Let me get my toes.
go. Get tall, man, get tall.
All right, now I'd like to call up Mark Essery. So I don't believe we've ever given out this award, maybe once. And this award is the Citation of Valor. And I'm proud to award this to you tonight or this afternoon. We had a structure fire this year, mobile home. There was a victim trapped, and although she succumbed to her injuries, Mark with his crew made a safe and appropriate access to this home, not through a door, but through a window that was modified with a chainsaw, I believe. And they made a window a door to get into this small bedroom and attempt rescue. And it's the job, right? But it's a rare occurrence. And that type of incident where you go interior of a burning structure to attempt rescue, a lot of times ends up with fatalities or injuries to firefighters. And thanks to his courageous acts and the efforts of him and his crew, they were able to facilitate getting the person out, although, as I stated, she was deceased. But it's bravery and valor and courage, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Get off.
Yeah.
But just want to say, you saw the word winners, because there's a lot of people that were theirs, their peers submitted their name for the different awards. And these ones, their efforts stood out. Sometimes, thanks to Keona's wrangling, it took quite a while, right? So everything's going down to give one award for each area. And I couldn't help but think as we were going through there, there's a definition of trust that says that trust is competence, benevolence, and integrity. And as everyone's going up and talking about the different stories, well, the stories were different. That each one of them and each one of the other people that were recognized by their peers and brought forward demonstrated that. And I just thought that was just worth pointing out. So, yeah, makes a difference in a lot of different ways. So thank you.
It's fun to be able to pull a surprise off on the chief. And I want to thank Chief Coyle for doing such a great job of explaining what these awards are all about. The one award that wasn't mentioned, but that in fact was voted on just like all the other awards, and that to me makes it particularly special, is an award to Chief Mazulis for the Community Service Award.
Oh, thank you.
And this award, so that you know what it is, it's to an SFD employee or employee group that demonstrated outstanding performance and dedication to the citizenry of Sedona and the surrounding communities. The recipient of this award will be actively involved in the community, participating in volunteerism, sponsorship, mentorship, and/or general community service. I'd like to add to that what the nomination said, because I think all of us who know Chief Mazulis know this to be true. Chief Mazulis is so involved in every aspect of 2 to 3 Verde Valley communities while serving Sedona with everything he has. I can attest to that. His dedication to the regional fire districts is unmatched, serving on boards, leading with 4-H and FFA, community projects, school boards, etc. The fact he brings his children to assist, teaching them valuable lessons in service, volunteerism, and being just a good person is commendable and will serve them and the communities they choose to live in for years to come. The chief exemplifies all the characteristics of the Community Service Award and lives them on a daily basis. So it's my honor and privilege, Chief, to give you the Community Service Award for this year. Thank you. Thank you.
I have to say something because it's me. I appreciate it very much, but I need to, full disclosure, my kids are required to do community service for their, so they don't exactly come along.
All right, well, we have put everyone through a shortened, long version of what it's like to a family dinner, catching up on the events of the day. So what I'd like to do is call a 10-minute recess, let you take pictures, hugs, do whatever. I'd like to congratulate our new firefighters and our award winners. So in 10 minutes, we will reconvene. And you're welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to go. Meeting is temporarily adjourned.
1540.
Thank you. My warning signal.
Time to go. Time to go. Hurry, hurry.
Thank you for coming, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. We will reconvene. So we have a budget workshop.
Is
I'm here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Gotcha.
Yes.
Perfect. Sharing my screen, so just let me know when you guys see that.
We can do.
Yep.
Now we're good.
All right. Well, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. We've kind of come to the culmination of the budget process. Just kind of highlight a few things here and open up to any questions. So just want to give you guys kind of an update on the budget process and where we're at. We've already kind of talked through it at length, but kind of just the final overview of what the capital plan looks like for next year. And then we will have the budget for tentative adoption. So, budget, kind of the budget process and schedule. Our timeline starts in February when we essentially send out the budget worksheets and we get the assessed value from the county. But, really budget's kind of one of those processes that, goes throughout the year. We've had a number of meetings with the board. We worked with staff and to compile and analyze all the budget requests to have what you have before you. This meeting on the 20th we'll ask for tentative adoption, and which will start our 20-day posting. And then we will come to the June board meeting and actually hold a public hearing on the budget and ask for final adoption. Again, just reiterating, from this point, if the board does tentatively adopt today, we cannot increase the budget in June, but we could always decrease the budget. So with that, kind of just running over the capital plan. I know we've kind of, again, gone through this in detail, but just reiterate what's in the capital plan for next year. So right now, one of the big things that's kind of a change from the prior year is we've added in $655,000 for debt service. Both that includes some funding for debt service on Station 4, as well as Station 5. We have about $3.3 million in station cash expenditures, which the majority of that is cash to be applied towards the Station 4 construction outside of financing. Then we have some site improvements at Station 3 and a small remodel with the Station 4 annex. Looking into apparatus, we're proposing $1.6 million in apparatus and vehicles. Some of that includes Type 1 engine, an ambulance re-chassis, and a water tender. For equipment projects, probably the largest one within telecom is radio system upgrades. We have some battery upgrades as well for our towers, and also new radio locations. And then as far as logistics equipment, cardiac monitor, extrication set, and some hose replacement are some of those items that make up those expenditures. We are proposing $1.5 million from the general fund to fund the capital. Projected about another $500,000 in interest earnings to help fund the $8.2 million in capital fund expenditures for next year, in conjunction with our projected beginning cash balance within the capital fund of about $10.6 million. Chief, is there anything else you want to add on the capital?
Not at this time. You covered it really well.
All right. Any questions from the board?
I think not.
Okay.
And that's because we went over the budget page with you and also had some lengthy discussions about this particular page, the capital improvement plan.
Yes, and I appreciate that, Director Cooperman. This is definitely not something that the board is decision they're making, with limited information. We've spent many hours between budget workshops and then even special meetings. So yes, I do appreciate that, but obviously want to give one last summary before we ask for you to adopt. So what we have before is kind of a snapshot here of our budget projections. For next year, we did see a 5.8% growth in assessed value. The final tax rate for next year is coming at $2.75, or about a 5-cent increase, which is down about a penny from our last meeting 2 weeks ago. And the budget proposal in front of you is for a total of $26,051,330. And as you can see with our projection for next year, again, assuming growth in assessed value of around 5%. And really what's driving the growth in the proposed tax rate for next year is going to be that added debt service, the full year of debt service for Station 4 and 5. Again, these are projections. I hope we still see another year of strong assessed value in the excess of 5%. And we see some stronger numbers, there, but ultimately, we've got plenty of capacity within this budget, both today and as we look into the future. So finally, we have before you guys the final budget for adoption. And at that point, I'll open up to any other questions.
Dave, I noticed that there was a small downward change in the estimation on real estate revenues. Any particular reason for that?
Yeah, because we're looking at a 5% growth off the prior year. And so that's why, with the drop in our tax rate.
Okay, all right. Any other questions for Gabe? I think we're good.
All
So
right.
anything further you want to add?
No, nothing. Just again, thank everybody involved in the process. This budget wasn't developed by JVG or the chief or the board or staff. It was the entire team that brought this together. So I want to thank everybody for their role and participation in the budget development.
Well, let me echo that, but let me also call for a motion to approve the proposed Sedona Fire District fiscal year 2026 budget. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the proposed Sedona Fire District fiscal year 2026 budget.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor or any discussion?
Well, I just want to say that it's very appreciated that we've been able to keep the budget at really what I consider to be a low appreciation, because given the level of inflation that our district has faced over the last year, to be able to just limit it to 6 point, you might have to fill that in for me, but to under 7% of a budget increase is quite remarkable. And I personally want to thank everybody involved in being able to keep the expenses that down.
Right, not 6.59%.
Thank you.
Any other comments, discussion? Okay, so all in favor of approving the proposed Sedona Fire District fiscal year 2026 budget, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes. I'd like to just end up by saying that Gabe, job well done. Chief, job well done. Staff, job well done. I know it's been a lot of work, but it's been good work, and thank you for all you've done. And I think we're well set for the next year.
Can I make one comment?
You certainly can.
So Gabe, coming from a new person, I very much appreciate all of the workshops that we went through on the budget, and you holding my hand anyway, getting me through this process. I really appreciate it. I feel like I know a lot more than I knew walking in the door.
Thank you. That makes us happy to hear.
Well, with that, let us proceed. Chief, do we have anyone who wishes to speak to us in the public?
I don't believe so.
I don't believe so. Okay. All right. So the item on the consent agenda, I'm going to move to table the consent agenda to the next meeting because of the fact that there's been a little less than the necessary amount of time for all the board members to have reviewed the items on the consent agenda. So let's move through that.
I would second your motion.
Okay. So Gabe, do you want to give us a financial report?
Yes, I will. Give me 1 second here. All right. Well, you guys have the April financial report in the packet. Tax levy revenue was down for the month. We only received about 2.6 million. We have been in conversations with other counties. We've actually not heard back yet from Yavapai, but we've actually kind of seen this across the state. Some of the larger mortgage companies paid the taxes a little late. So we're anticipating that catching up in the May reports. The counties that have gotten back to us have reported that all of that, shortfall was received early in May. And budgets, and collections are on track. So I anticipate just a timing issue from when those payments were received and when the county sent over the reports. Non-levy revenue was slightly under for the month by 14,787. We received a total of 320,000. Really, ambulance revenue continues to run over budget, as well as our investment earnings. But really, wildland deployments was kind of the major driver of that. We didn't have any revenue related to deployments for the month of April. On the expense side, personnel at 1.4 million are under budget by $25,000. Buildings and land was at 30,577 or under budget by $7,800. Vehicles and equipment was over by 26,920. A couple things driving that. We purchased some turnout gear. And so not over budget on that category for the year, but definitely for the month based on timing when that turnout gear was purchased. And then already kind of addressed in the budget that you just approved, but our EMS supplies as well as shop supplies have just been trending over what we budgeted for this current year. And that has been addressed in the budget just adopted by the board. Small variance on communication IT of about $9,900 related to some mobile radio purchases, and managerial expenses came in at 89,035 or under budget by 17,000. Year to date, our total revenues at 22,116,000. We are under budget by $345,000. Really what's driving that is our $1.6 million variance on property tax collection. Non-levy revenues actually really strong. We're over budget by about 1.3 million. And that again is made up from ambulance revenue, wildland deployments earlier in the year, as well as our interest earnings. On the expenses, happy to report, expenses are at 18,020,000 and under budget by 639,000 year to date. And as you can see on the graph there, we are under budget across all of our major expense categories. At this point, we've expended 79% of our budget with 21% remaining for May and June. As far as where our money's gone, personnel has been our highest expense at 85% of our total expenses, followed by operations at 7%, and both communication and managerial are at 4% of our total costs. Year over year, we ended the month with 22 million total cash on hand. That's an increase over the prior year of about 1.8 million. I'm sorry. Other assets decreased slightly from 25.3 to 24.2. That's really kind of the two main drivers of that. One, our annual depreciation on our assets. And then we also had some deferred outflows related to the pension that was recorded at the time of the audit. Total liabilities also increased from 32.9 to 33.2. Really big driver of that again is our annual recording of our pension liability is what caused our total liabilities to actually increase slightly year over year. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions the board has.
Any questions? No, I think we're good. All right, so I will make a motion that we approve the April 2025 finance report. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Say nay. Gabe, you're all done. Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You ready to move on?
Yes.
All right. Excuse me. We'll start off. You're up, Chief Quill.
We get a slide.
All right.
I can't.
Sometimes you click and it doesn't go through.
I got a rib out and I've been getting it put back in, but looking up is not a thing. So yeah, it's yeah, I didn't even think it was real until I had it happen. Then I thought it was real. Anyways, so the significant events, the most, let's summarize it this way. Then I'll talk about the wildland season that we're in right now. Has to do with the hiring and the different assessment center processes. So each one of the three different assessment centers that we did over the last, that completed since the last board meeting, involved 3 different stages, and each one of those focused on different components of the different jobs. And it's interesting. So you do that for a group of firefighters, and it's one test. When you do it for 3 different unique admin positions, it is a lot of different tests. All of them, for the first time, had behaviorally anchored rating systems associated with them. So instead of just saying, I'll rate this person on a 1 to 5, they talked about the questions that would ask, the competency they're looking at, and then the behaviors that were representative of each one of those different levels of competency. So do that ahead of time, and then having it where everybody has to standardize their scores, what they call consensus meetings as far as the evaluators go, is best practice, is the best practice for doing assessments to remove bias and to get a more accurate assessment. And I feel like that time will tell. So this is a kind of, I should wait 6 months and say how awesome we did, but that the value will be demonstrated in the individuals that we've made conditional offers to, and that hopefully will be onboarding us after they don't that process. So I don't want to get ahead of that, especially folks may not have, I wouldn't tell my employer until I had passed the conditional offer part, but it was worth the effort, I think. And I have a lot of confidence in what the results will be. So that was a major lift this month. The other thing about that I just want to talk about is the wildland fire season where we're at right now. So I figured it was relevant to kind of park on that for a minute, because there's the fire in Greer that started in Greer and then moved to the north, where the mountains that go lower to the north always confuse me, because north seems up, but that's how it is from Greer to the areas where South Fork is, and then towards the community of Eager and Springerville. They just lifted the mandatory evacuations for part of Eager yesterday. So that is that's a very good sign. And right now, most of the active perimeter of the fire is well north of all of the populated areas. So well south of all the populated areas up towards the White Mountains. What's interesting is that the fire it was those high wind days that we had started within the Greer Fire District and then they moved out of it. But it burned actively through the old fire scar, partly from the Wallow fire that was about 10 years ago. And that's kind of an indicator, because big fire scars like that was a 500,000 acre fire scar. They kind of have a life cycle. You have the period after the fire where you may get some grasses growing up in them, but they don't really carry fire very well. There's just not much fuel left. And then you have when all the trees fall down, if it's a timbered area, and then you get enough of that brushy stuff that it burns well and it's resistant to suppression because all those dead logs on the ground hold heat. So it's not just like the grasses anymore where if the humidity comes up at night or if you get some good tanker drops, you're going to put it out. And the reason I say that is because we have the Brins fire scar and then the La Bronca is more in juniper, but the Brins fire scar that is at that same kind of stage. And historically, like we saw in New Mexico 3 years ago, when those large fire scars, when the fire started to move around in them, it moved around in more than one of them at a time. That was during those previous years because conditions are kind of all ripe at the same time. So that's the background. And then there's also was a fuel advisory issued for basically the White Mountains in New Mexico. It didn't go quite as far over to us, although our conditions are just barely less representative, a little bit wetter. And that is because they were seeing numbers that exceeded any of the historic maximums and for this time of year. So all that to say that that's the background conditions. So we talked about before that, talk about the background conditions and the fine fuels and then the triggers and the events. So now we're at that stage where we've had a little bit of moderating precipitation, which is great for May. We get an inch of rain in May and that's pretty awesome. But the background conditions haven't really changed. So now it's a little bit of a wait and see and a be cautious because we can see how fire behaved in some place that was just a little bit drier than us. It didn't get the same amount of precipitation, how resistant suppression it was. And now we're going to enter a hotter and drier and windier period, at least as far as I know, for the extended forecast. There's no precipitation in there. Temperatures are supposed to go back up and humidities are going to go back down and feel wind associated with it. So what takes an ignition source and there's not likely to be any lightning in the next several weeks. So it's up to people to make good choices because the conditions are going to probably change pretty rapidly. The brush is still in green up, so the moisture from the ground has gone into the brush which prevents it from being available to burn. But as that tapers off in combination with these changes and the background conditions, it's going to be important for us to pay attention both in the district and see what's going on in conditions that are similar around the district to kind of show where we're at with regards to that. I'll let Kirk talk to the restrictions meeting. But we're ready. Todd Miranda's done a wonderful job, as the other people have, with making sure everybody's got the necessary annual refresher training, that everybody's qualified, we have the right gear. And so now it's just the moment of kind of wait and see. And that the big, I guess, for me, if there's not necessarily keeps me up at night, but the big question mark is we will be, I feel like we will be good. And by good, we'll get a response that's commensurate with what it has been in years past, as long as there's not a lot of competition for stuff. And then that's when the impacts of the last several weeks or actually a couple months now of retirements, rifts, new direction are going to start to show themselves, because you have surge capacity that you're used to having. And now if you look at the number of people that are qualified in these different positions, there's significantly fewer of them. But you can still get, probably 2 or 3 deep into incidents and still be fine. It'll be, if we happen to have the one that is here be number 4 or number 5, and then it will be, is there stuff? Is there and what about processes that were dependent upon people that may not be there anymore, that delay being able to bring more stuff on board, create an impact? And so that's actually, that's the not so sexy, but that's definitely the part that I'm paying more attention to, is as things trend and start to see those, the red TV, signposts of failure. Start to see those signposts where things are not operating like they should, and then how we respond to that. What do we do in response to that information? So That's kind of the situation right now. Yeah,
It sounds like, there's more unknowns than,
there's and there's ambiguity plus uncertainty, which is always worse than, at least uncertainty, you have a choice set that you're choosing from, you're just not sure which one to choose. But there's certainly a degree of ambiguity where you don't know if those slides you have from years past are relevant.
Chief, I'm curious, you mentioned maybe one or two meetings ago that there was a possibility of having an earlier onset of monsoon because of the level of dryness, but then we had that inch of rain.
All right.
And so I wondered, did that nix that or what?
Well, there's not, because it's so anomalous that if you look at the data, there's not a lot, there's that positive correlation between lower than normal wintertime precipitations and then earlier onset and stronger monsoons. And it's not 1-to-1, but it's a strong correlation. We don't have very much rain in May, but I thought about the same thing. I'm like, is this going to, create, make it where we don't heat up as quick? I don't think it will, frankly, because the wintertime snowpack and the wintertime, I mean, that gets the soil wet. That's like when you look at the drought monitor, if you saw that all of a sudden a rain event, like maybe a hurricane remnants parking over us or something, caused us to, where they're forecasting we were going to leave that drought, then that would be the time when I'd say, okay, that might change those conditions. But I don't believe it will. No, none of the climatologists have said anything about wanting to revise that based on what's happened. So we'll take it because it doesn't change the background conditions, but you get that much precipitation every 2 to 3 weeks. It can really moderate fire season. And I mean, it's something to hope for. Not our plan. We're not planning around that hope, but it's a good thing to hope for.
I've been watching the Greer fire, and one of the things that I heard was that DFFM had sort of gone through their firefighting budget for the year so far. And I'm using the Greer fire as an indicator. Are we seeing that that's going to cause us problems if there's a 2, 3, or 4 event?
No, I don't think it will cause us problems in the response to the event, especially us. So we're fortunate in that fires that start, even if they started within the Sedona Fire District, are a threat to the national forest. And there's a way that costs are apportioned and that they're shared and that they're coordinated. That there's one of the mantras is that the fires have no boundaries. And so that's one thing about this cohesive fire strategy, is that we all work together. So I don't see it creating a problem for us now. When it starts in Greer, and then if I know they did get an FMAG declaration, so they successfully got a fire management assistant grant declaration, and so there'll be a large cost recovery that will be available to them through FEMA. FEMA's still there.
That was my question.
But there's a mechanism in place right now for that to happen. Yeah, but it also, you make different choices when you're cash strapped than you do when you have resources. And so, I believe that John Truitt and Todd Abel are going to make the leaders of the DFFM of the fire part are going to make the best choices possible. I also think that there's fewer resources available and there's less funding for them to just go out and do stuff. So they're going to have to, it's not a goal, but it's a constraint, just like Gaben's budget, right? And so they're going to have to operate within those constraints. But I'm confident that they will do the best how they can, and they will communicate anything that may impact us ahead of time. And then after July 1, they get a new budget, right? So we just need to hurry up and get to July 1 so they get some more money without anything big happening. That is a bad thing about our budget cycle for them. The October one is better. If they had like a federal cycle, would be, because when you split fire season like that, it creates the wrong. It creates I shouldn't say the wrong, but there are enticements for saving money because you're at the end of your whole budget cycle and you're running out of money. Whereas if that was the beginning of yours and you're going into fire season, you maybe would feel less constrained, and you make it up on the backside. So.
Thank you.
You bet. End of report.
Any other questions? Kurt?
Good afternoon. There's a quick rundown of last month's community risk reduction. So our consults, pretty much that is down, just going out and talking to people, basically fire code consultations. Those have gone down a little bit. Inspections, we're up on those, and blended in with those inspections, also the residential firewise, where we're going to people's homes and giving them firewise recommendations of their properties. That's kind of leveling off a little bit, but I see it picking back up here as soon as summer comes. More people are going to be calling again. Rest of the inspections are tenant occupancy improvements, fire sprinklers. Your firewise consultant, in the public, those are the events where Chief Missoula's, Chief Coyle, and all of them went to the Performing Arts Center, spoke to all the residents about firewise, evacuations and all that. The other two of those were ones I've done at the public library. I did two there, and also an HOA. Plan reviews are up, as always. Applications are up. Events. There's been a few events in town. We'll start off with the beginning of April. City of Sedona had a spring fling up at the Posse grounds. I bet there was probably at least 500 to 1,000 people that filtered through that throughout the day. It was, the city put on one heck of an event. I'll tell you that. We were up there. I met a lot of people, and I actually talked about firewise and stuff with people that weren't even from here. That are from the valley, Verde Valley, Camp Verde, everywhere else. So that was good. We also did the wildfire preparedness cleanup. Those 2 weekends in the end of April, first weekend in May, in the village of Oak Creek was super busy, which I anticipated. We had 211 people come in and drop off. That's 211 drop offs. And that's anything from bags in the back of an SUV to dump trailers to pickup trucks. We loaded up 4 roll-off dumpsters, packed them full. Okay. Went to Sedona.
I thought you had sound effects. I'm like, wow.
And West Sedona was a little slower, but when you have the doing over there, when you have the city was doing their cleanup at the same time, which they do every year. They have do it in sections where they'll pick up their bags at the curbside. So we only had 38 people show up in West Sedona for that, but it still went well. We still filled 2 dumpsters to the top. So that was good. Moving on with that one. We did a keep your pets safe around fire walk in the Sunset Mobile Home Park, right over here off of Shelby. Went good, put in 15 pet alarms, 15 to 18. I think there's 20 that actually signed up. 7 smoke alarms installed, because while we were in there, we were also checking their smoke alarms and making sure they were good. We found 7 that needed to be replaced and 7 that needed battery changes. And with that, thank you, Board Chair Helen and Scott Springett, Chief Missoula's for helping out. That was great. And the staff of Sunset Mobile Home Park was super helpful. They came out full force, and it's much nicer doing a walk with, you have golf carts to cruise you around in instead of walking the entire property. So that was awesome. Let's see what else we got. Fires. There was actually 2 in April, but they weren't really fire. One was a brake fire on a semi that came down the canyon. They got it out quick. The second one was actually had potential to be a fire. There was a lot of heat damage, but a pool heater that malfunctioned in a room and superheated the room. And the only reason the homeowner caught it was the pool was 83 degrees or whatever.
Oh.
And she went and opened the door and got blasted with heat. So this heater just never shut off. So that had potential to be a bad thing. And that was out at the Erie subdivision. Put in 2 car seats and The last thing I want to end with burn permits. Burn permits will end on May 31st for the season. We are not in any restrictions right now. Coconino National Forest is not in any restrictions right now, even though everyone's reporting moderate to high fire danger. And typically what's going to happen, usually happens after Memorial Day weekend, is when they start thinking about going into restrictions. We follow the Coconino National Forest. When they go in restrictions, we will, and also Yavapai County, because a lot of our district is Yavapai County. So we'll follow those too. And there's one more slide, just some pictures so you can see.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Pictures.
I'm watching Gabe.
Oh.
Hi, Gabe.
The top left one,
Sorry
that
about
was
that.
spring cleaning. And then that's your cleanup right there. That's the crews out there. We have a Bobcat, backhoe, and there's 4 of us. That's our 8 to 5 for 2 days. And it's by 5 o'clock, you're done emptying trailers and cars. But we're doing really well. Everybody's really super appreciative of it. And that's all I got. End of report. Got any questions?
No, I just want to thank you for you and for CRI's support for the Keep Your Pets Fire Safe.
Yeah.
It was great.
Good.
Thank you.
There are a lot of people really excited about it.
I'm glad you didn't have the picture of me with my illegal drop off. No, we
We
did
don't want to know.
no, I worked with Rotary Club to do a cleanup of a disabled veteran in the village, and we filled the dumpster that they got donated. And so the next weekend I got the rest of the stuff out of his yard, and these guys were giving me crap. What are you doing? You're not a Sedona resident. I'm like, this is what address it's from. All right, Buzz is out with a family emergency. So the bulk of his month is doing a lot of interactive work with NAH right now on our interfacility transports and really building framework. And a lot of that was kind of held up by some possible change to statute, and that's all gone away. So the hope is we can move forward, and it's just evaluating how and what we do with our interfacility transports, which is when we take a patient from Sedona Mercy Center to Phoenix or Flagstaff or an outside hospital, and looking at some opportunities to better tune that process. One, to use our resources more efficiently, and 2, to get patients out of the Sedona Mercy Center in a quicker fashion, an appropriate fashion. Because a lot of times we'll have them stacked up, and we kind of got to do a triage on, because we will only drill down we don't prioritize interfacilities for our ambulances, and so we'll prioritize which patients need to go and work further with the hospital so that we maintain ambulances in district for 911 calls. And then I know a big lion's share of his stuff was trying to get answers on costs of things across the board, from consumables to equipment to everything else, so we can get accurate budget numbers. And a lot of the vendors are holding little flags up saying, look over here, and really the current trend we're seeing across all our consumable markets and with the construction stuff and everything is everybody's anchored into this July 1st price change of varying degrees, and they're calling it the tariff price change. So really with him and so many products that he purchases, it was a lift to figure out the what with where prices are going to be so we can have an accurate budget. And then continuing to do training, and the cameras, the intubation cameras that you approved 2 months ago are in, and they're in servicing, and the crews will be starting to use them soon. So it's good stuff. And then fleet, the shop truck should be here in a week if all is as planned. And then the IT vehicles, no update on that. And all of the apparatus, the other apparatus, all the engines have been ordered, and I think Mike's working the final bugs out of a couple of our new Type 1 engines. And it's normal, they all come with bugs. And it's unfortunately you can't identify some of those bugs till you're driving it and operating it for a bit, and then it gets settled in. Then in mental health, we had a really good interaction with Start Moving On Counseling, and did a comprehensive review of the package that we're gonna be providing employees and their families next year. And our usership is up with mental health services across the board with families and with employees. And normally that's not a good thing, but in this case, it is a good thing because a majority of the usage is preventative versus reactive to a crisis. So it's pretty cool. We'll move on to Jordan if there are any questions.
Madam Chair, Board, thanks for having me this evening. Got a few bullet point training items that we've conducted over the last month since the last meeting, and then I kind of went into a little bit of explanation for some of the newer board members on what those programs actually entail. So we did complete 4 6-month evaluations for our current probationary firefighters, not the 4 that just got hired, 4 that we hired last October. So they're at their 6-month time frame in which they take a written assessment and a practical assessment. They have to get a 70% on both of those to proceed to the 12-month task book. So happy to say all 4 did well. 3 of the 4 actually broke the written test score record. So on Monday of the evaluations, we had a new high score. On Wednesday, we had a new high score, and then Friday, another new high score. So just a testament to those individuals and the quality of employees that we're hiring. It's very exciting to see. So they are done. All the performance metrics and feedbacks have been documented, and necessary guidance has been provided to continue support development with their crews. So I touch base with all their new company officers that they move to after 6 months. So they go from one crew to the next for a second set of eyes on them, and had conversations with those captains, assessments. So they all did well. As you heard, the new hire academy was complete successfully with all recruits passing. Each had met the required competencies and transitioned their shift assignments, and they do have assigned mentors now. So they'll be with them for 6 months, at which time we'll evaluate them. The same time we're doing a 12-month evaluation of the previous 4, and then we'll move them all again to get a second set of eyes on those 4 that we just hired.
And speaking of the new hires, they were the cause of our disruption. They're mounting their academy flag to the wall.
Oh, yeah.
So,
There's a hammer drill. It was weird. I thought it was on the sheet.
I gave them a month to do it. So that was the inside joke with their accountability of their equipment. So I give each recruit class a flag, and that's their flag to carry for 3 weeks. And the intent of that is not to highlight Sedona Fire, even though it helps when we're PTing in Cottonwood, running by Cottonwood Fire Station with the Sedona Fire flag. I'm a bit competitive, so I enjoy that. But the intent behind that is to make sure they have accountability of their equipment. So when they get on the floor, they have accountability of their turnouts and their SCBA. These individuals had some trouble with the accountability of their flag, which we were able to solve by week 3. But it's I task each one of the academies to hang their flag out in the bay. So they've got that for their whole career here. They can look back the year and the individuals they went through the academy with and kind of remember that time. So as you walk, you'll see those recruit flags on the bay wall out there. So it's pretty funny they're doing it now.
So Jordan, I presume the accountability issue was probably they're not keeping their collective eyes and mitts on the guide on.
That is an accurate statement.
As gremlins tend to do from the training side of the house, take possession of it.
Yes. So if they walk away and leave
there, Lance.
leave their flag unaccounted for, our training cadre that I've mentioned prior is on the watch for that all the time and is quickly able to snag that. And then there's some repercussions for that, which we all do push-ups and all that fun stuff. So we do it with them. But it's a general reminder to make sure that you're always diligent and watching over your equipment, because if you show up to a structure fire without your pack or your SCBA, you're no good to anybody. So I try to reinforce that through the academy.
Right.
It's great.
Engineer position task book evaluations of this week. We opened it up. We do have one individual that's moving through it. He finished the written test, did very well. And Friday he'll be running through his practical assessment. As Chief Mazulis mentioned, we're revamping the entire training division the last 2 years. So this is a newer, more complex process to get these individuals through these position task book evaluations. And what that is they finish their task book that was initiated. They're evaluated on it. As long as they pass, then they're in a billeted status and they can start moving up on a daily basis and working in those positions. So last year was the year of the captain before the test. This year is kind of the year of the engineer before our engineers assessment center in February. So one of our firefighters will be running through that evaluation on Friday. I suspect and assume we'll have anywhere from 8 to 12 that'll be putting in for it in October. So that'll be a week-long evaluation process because each one takes about 4 hours. It's pretty complex and it really gets them in the rhythm of getting ready for the actual assessment center. It's scaled down quite a bit from an assessment center, but it gets them in the practice and preparation for that actual assessment center when the time comes. So we'll be conducting that on Friday. In my role, we went in and pretty much blew up all the position task books themselves. So I want to make sure that they were NFPA compliant. They met the standards for ISO, that they met the standards for OSHA and any other exterior relevant standards to make sure we're meeting all those for each position. So been working on the captain's task book. I've solicited interest and feedback from some of our senior captains, our chief officers, and then two of our new captain individuals that just promoted on what they were lacking in preparation for the test. So I got the feedback from them plus what I had, and we've got a rough draft of that task book out for review right now with the key stakeholders. The union is part of that as well, loop them in. And then with anticipation of having a final draft and implementation going in July 1 of 2025. So there'll be a whole new position task book for captains in July 1st of 2025. So that's in the works right now. Blue card command training. So we adopted blue card 12 years ago or so. Sure. 13 years ago, somewhere in there.
It's been a while.
And 2 years ago, we implemented quarterly training for that blue card to make sure everybody's staying proficient, efficient. And so that quarterly blue card command training continues to schedule with the next session planned for June. These courses are part of our ongoing effort to strengthen incident command competencies across all of our operational personnel. So all of our ops come into those quarterly trainings. We usually hold them at Station 4, and we'll run engine companies through those where they go through incident size ups. People that are getting ready to promote and test, we'll give them the opportunity to sit in the hot seat in front of their peers and in front of the instructors and run through tactical simulators. So it's been extremely beneficial so far. We'll continue with that. We do have one individual at the NFPA 1403 live fire training for instructors right now. So again, trying to build that depth for succession planning as people start moving on. We're not lacking in instructors. So we've got one individual that's probably not a big fan of me right now. He's in Mojave Valley doing the live fire training. So I'm sure it's a little bit warm for him today and tomorrow. But he's going to be a great addition. It's one of our newer captains that just promoted. He's going to be a great addition to our instructor cadre, and that'll get us up to 7 live fire instructors. So we're making sure we're compliant with NFPA 1403 when we conduct those live fire drills, that we're meeting and exceeding the recommendations and the standards. One thing I haven't talked about a lot is some of the academic achievements of our staff. So we've got several SFD personnel right now that are actively pursuing associate's and bachelor's degrees in preparation for the 2026 engineers testing and then the 2027 battalion chief assessment center. So these individuals are cranking out some classes. I just approved quite a few today. One individual is really cranking them out. He's in a bachelor's program getting ready for the battalion chief's assessment center, and he's currently working on his task book as well. So a lot of guys are not only doing suppression training and EMS training, they're going to school at the same time. So a testament to them and their commitment.
Requirement for
some positions, yes, ma'am. So the engineer has a specific set of educational requirements as well as years on the job. Same for captain, where they have to have an associate's degree in fire science. A battalion chief has to have a bachelor's degree, plus those years on the job as well.
In 2007, labor worked with management to align so that the National Fire Academy has a pyramid structure, and the pyramid basically reflects, real world experience and work experience and a level of education. And in 2007, we aligned our job descriptions and our promotional documentation to reflect that pyramid. And it's a national standard, and for the different ranks, educational requirements and then experience requirements. And It's,
individuals are not only going to school, they're preparing for tests, they're training, and they're completing position task books, which is basically college in a book itself of, tasks they have to complete in front of two different evaluators. So pretty high standards here, and we're starting to see the benefit of that, increasing those standards and expectations here at Sedona Fire. Working with the regional training officer group, so we got that going again. We're meeting monthly, and we're actively working together to assess and improve the functionality of the regional training center, as Chief Mazulis mentioned earlier. Some of our plans include optimizing space utilization and enhancing available training props to support more realistic and efficient multi-company and multi-agency training. So there's talks about Verde Valley actually reached out. I think they've only got one live fire instructor. They actually reached out to me. I talked to Chief Mazulis about helping them conduct a live fire training for some of their staff that they've hired 5-7 years ago that they haven't run through live fire scenarios yet. So we're really working on that multi-agency training, and that collaboration between the training officers is going really well with that. Continue working on policy development and overhaul with Captain Kurtz and the local 3690 RBO, plus the individuals responsible for individual divisions for policy. So that's continuing. That was a huge undertaking. Captain Kurtz is diligent and doing a great job with that. And then we're looking at doing our annual functional movement screenings for all staff here in the next month and a half, in collaboration with Solve Global, which is physical therapy center through our insurance. That's free, but they offered to come up and actually bring some therapists with them while we do these functional movement screenings and identify key areas where employees can improve movements and strengthen areas to decrease on-the-job injuries, which eventually decreases cost to the district and liability to the district as well. So that's in the works with our wellness committee.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great tool, and it provides a lot of benefit to our membership. So, and we extend that same offer to the administrative staff as well. We'll run them through the screenings in one day. We give them the results. They can compare to how they did in previous years and see if what they're doing is working. So hopefully we'll get that together with Solve Global and have those physical therapists up here, and be a great benefit. And then one last thing, we did purchase a piece of equipment. We've got an electric vehicle fire blanket. So that is now on the battalion chief truck. So I'm sure you've seen the news with everything going on, and we had already anticipated ordering it prior to that, but it was good timing. So that blanket can be used not only for electric vehicles, it can be used for car fires in Oak Creek Canyon if we have one, where crews can quickly deploy this. The training video I sent out decreased. They had a thermal imaging camera on the vehicle. It decreased the temperature from 12 to 1400 down to 300 degrees in a matter of like 3 minutes. And it stops a lot of that ember wash, which will help hopefully mitigate some of the interface issues we have. Yes, ma'am.
Where does it live?
It's on the battalion chief truck
Which is.
at Station 4.
they go to
So,
all the fires. So
they're heavy. It's like 60 pounds, and we didn't get the largest one. And they take a lot of space. So instead of trying to put one on every piece of apparatus, we put one on the battalion chief rig. So if they hear of a car fire in Oak Creek Canyon or 89A, like Chief Coyle talked about, the fuels dry out really quick, interface out by the sewer treatment plant, and those light flashy fuels, those gases can spread very rapidly. If we're not able to suppress it, utilizing the tank water on the engine, they can deploy this emergency fire blanket on it, and it brings that temperature down and it stops that ember washout. And we talked to some of the tow companies and told them what we do. And it's a single-use blanket, but that also helps them get that vehicle off the scene quicker too, because a lot of tow companies won't load those electric vehicles up on their vehicles, on their tow trucks, and take them to a tow yard because they'll reignite. And they didn't want that occurring while they're towing them. So they put that blanket on and ratchet strap it down to the tow truck, and they can actually get the vehicle off the scene quicker too. So we do have one of those in service. We sent out training videos, got the instruction or the extrication vehicle fire cadre involved in that. And they were actually out here training with it at Station 1 a couple weeks ago, and we're really impressed with it. So hopefully we won't need it, but if we do, we've got it now.
What does it cost?
I believe that one was $1,300, right in there, $1,350. They're not cheap. They do make a multi-use one that's quite a bit more, but I wasn't comfortable talking to the cadre, especially
Not for that price point.
after an EV fire, all those toxic chemicals getting embedded in the blanket and then re-rolling and putting it back on the engine didn't make sense to me.
So, and we had some opportunities with some residents that did some research and broadcasted on Nextdoor that the district ought to, and they had cut and pasted some products they thought we should buy, and we do our homework. They're like any other industry or any other new opportunity. You Google EV suppression equipment and everybody's coming up with a product right now, and these stabbing nozzles, all kinds of stuff. And the blanket seemed like the most efficient thing to add to our fleet and evaluate. But some of these other pieces of equipment are much more costly and require assembly, and this seemed like the most practical solution, and we'll see.
Yeah, I would say by the time they get it off the truck, the crews can probably have that blanket deployed in less than 2 minutes over a vehicle.
We had that discussion that, basically create a problem and they will come.
Yeah.
And the vendors are sprouting like mushroom clouds. So good on you for doing your due diligence.
Yeah, and the blanket actually, some of the valley departments are carrying the exact blanket we have. Come to find out after we did our research and selected one, then I started looking out to see what other agencies have. Scottsdale Fire's got the same one. And it can be used for some of the charging stations as well, if there's a fire at one of the EV charging stations. So,
Jordan, I want to congratulate you. I remember training before you took over the training function. And you said earlier that you had blown up the training function over the last, you have.
You should get an award.
maybe not the right,
No, in the most positive
maybe not
way.
the right terminology.
Yeah, you have brought us to a whole new level in terms of training. And I want to thank you and congratulate
Yes,
you.
ma'am. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. And the report.
All right.
Chief Mizoulis.
They covered it all. Any questions? No. So we'll go through the data in a minute, but I just, between last board meeting and this, that a week was eaten up at fair. Thankfully, it's one of my, I have a couple resets that I do. I do a little vacation in the summer. I do a summer camp as a counselor, and then I do fair. And it's my resets and my reminders on what life is about and what matters. And just reason I'm bringing up fair is because there were some seniors that returned because they no longer show their animals and they're feeling a sort of way because they're not part of the fair community anymore. But what's neat is these young men and women are pursuing their fire science and EMT stuff, and just that embedded relationship. Jordan lives at the fair like I do all week, and the fact that we knew them as fair people, and now they're getting into public service, and they have that level of comfort to talk to us. It's like this accidental organic recruitment tool that I didn't realize existed, and it's kind of cool because, I mean, they're young men and women that I'd almost be like, yeah, just come on board. Obviously we go through the process, but I know what they're bringing to the table because they've been interviewing for Jordan and I for 4 years unknowingly, and so it's pretty neat. It was just a realization I had that was kind of cool because you can fake it in an interview, but you can't fake the past 4 years and watching me interact with your peers and deal with loss and experience excitement. So it was neat. Other than that, been evaluating some opportunities with our parking property that we leased to the city. And that's kind of mushroomed into a time suck because we've got an interested private citizen in the property. We have a process if we chose to sell it, maybe coming to the board soon. In addition to that, the city sent Kirk a substantial layout of what they're going to do to update Forest Road, and it will impact our parking lot and potentially the current Station 4 because it's an extensive multi-use path. So we're engaging with the city to integrate into their development process to ensure that it doesn't create an environment where we have to relocate our apparatus and things like that, and make sure our property is used to best effect. There's a potential that exists for us to recover some of the costs of Station 4 by utilizing and maybe public surplusing some of that property. So more to come on that, but it turned into an immediate need due to the fact that there's an opportunity with one, the city getting ready to break ground on a bunch of stuff, and two, expressed interest from public parties to purchase the land. So it's an opportunity for the district. So that was a little piece that's taken some time. And then, as Chief Coyle mentioned, he didn't, I don't think he clearly, I think you all understand, I don't think he clearly articulated the time involved with development and administration of 3 different positions and selection of people. And that took up a lot of time because we really did an internal quick hit on and a SWOT on a reset. You know, for example, we told JVG, as we reset our processes and maximize efficiency, treat us like a new customer, and how you would onboard a new customers was our message to them, so that we could identify any processes. So for those that are newer to the board, we were one of JVG's first clients. And at the time it was a, how do you want to do it moment and figure it out. And now that we're at a point where we have an administrative reset, I think we have some opportunities to align with how they've onboarded a lot of their newer customers and increase efficiencies. And we've already identified 3 or 4 areas where we can increase efficiencies. And so, and with that, we had to balance, and Chief Coyle and Keon and I did a lot of beating our heads against the wall, because with that, as we interviewed and tested candidates, we recognized some talents that came out in the process that further changed our view of how we need to restructure to the positive. But we parked with enough time, I think, to evaluate and do it right, so that we maximize the opportunities when we onboard these new people. So while it took a lot of time, it was exciting. And then last piece that took some time is really wrapping up the meet and confer process. And I won't get into the details, but I will tell you this. President Rodriguez has been asked to sit on a panel next week at the Professional Firefighters of Arizona Leadership Summit with the fire chief of Phoenix Fire and some other folks that are heavily involved in labor management, because of the statewide recognition of how well the process works at Sedona Fire with labor and management. So it's going to be kind of a walk and talk and a Q&A with those folks about how we're doing what we're doing. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's, without getting into the details of some of the backroom back and forth between me and labor, we still remained friends. So, and that's difficult because you come from back east or in some more contentious environments, and there's kind of an automatic assumption that the relationship has to be a battle at the start. And that's just, it's not how we're operating. And so it's pretty cool. Yeah. And it's just, and we didn't agree on everything. I will fully admit that, but we were all adults and worked towards the greater good of our organization and the community we serve. So that was cool, but we'll bump on to some of the cool slides. And then ambulance times, our young assistant here is learning some of our new softwares. And so she did a great job, but you know, ambulance times and response times are staying pretty flat, as well as our ambulance total time in service. We've got a group of folks. We're creating some monsters right now. I'm gonna blame Jordan for a lot of it. We sent some folks to a conference. It's ESO. It's the software that we use. And this conference it's a boot camp, and it's not just go and look at vendors and cocktail hour. Our guys would sadly go back to their hotel after class and start crunching on the computer because they had fresh new data tools in their head. And we're going to see some, I think we're going to see some changes to this data, because they're making some proposals on how we, not adding staffing, but how we utilize our apparatus to reduce road time, distribute the workload more equitably. Some pretty neat ideas. So more to come on that. They're punching a lot of data out, and you can't deny the data once you see the data. Facts are facts, unless you're watching the news. All right, next slide. And at Rescue and EMS winning the race once again. That's what we do. 87% of our call volume is medical in nature. Next call or slide. Year over year, we're trending a little bit down, but it's the nature of it. We're coming into another busy season. And next slide. 22 backcountry rescues. Yeah, that and what's that? Yeah, it is. It just back in the day, Tricia can remember. Oh, we had a rescue last month.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but again, our crews are getting out there and they're doing it, and the continued use of some of our data tools and software is continuing to improve how we do things. When Jordan and Chief Cole and I and Kirk started here, we'd get a rescue at Bell Rock, and then we'd have 2 teams start walking around Bell Rock till we found somebody hurt. And that wasn't very efficient. And now we get within 6 meters of accuracy where the person is. And so we can strike and get in there. It's reduced call times, reduced wear and tear on our folks and equipment. It's good, but backcountries continue to be a popular call for us. Next one. And there's station 1 is clearly winning the race once again. And I know I say that month over month, and we're evaluating that right now, as I stated, with our data to look at how to make this pie chart. It will never be equal, but we're looking at some opportunities to spread that out a little bit and reduce that 46% and potentially increase, that 31% and that the other ones to kind of balance the load a little bit better.
That does include in facilities though too.
Yeah. Yeah. Next slide. All right, here's a thank you letter for Mike Pace and crew. And it's in the packet. Well, next letter. One more.
Oh,
Huh? There's only one. Okay. So that is the thank you letter for the month. We also, Captain Sanchez here at Station 1 apparently can do no wrong. Son of a gun, the guy. But I had a resident call me and respectfully demanded that we provide an opportunity for him to buy dinner for Rod and his crew. And so they did that yesterday. The resident bought Gerardo's and came over, and him and his wife had dinner with our crew, and it was a really neat experience.
That's a nice thank you.
Well, and he just, I won't go into details of the call, but he just the struggles that him and his wife have both had with some health emergencies over the past 18 months and just the care and compassion that our guys showed is, and again, Captain Rod, as he is called, can do no wrong. And it was pretty neat. And that is my report. If there aren't any questions, we'll move on.
Any questions? Thank you, Chief. Good report.
Yeah.
Okay. So I believe our next item of business is a discussion and possible action on the Gentech Telecom generator project purchase.
Yes, as you are all well aware, we're in the midst of a telecom upgrade, and prior to installing the new radio specific equipment, we've identified the need to improve. So all of our sites are powered by APS power. And then a backup to that is a battery bank and or a gen set that runs off propane. So project manager Suizo Scott has been working with Bob and identifying some of the things. We had a complete evaluation of all of our sites and the current state of our generators. As stated, some of them are 25 to 30 years old. They're mismatched, and their usable life has been extended multiple times. So the initial piece is Graves Propane at no cost is installing remote monitoring on our propane tanks. And what that means is we no longer go up and manually check them, which seems like something good to do in 2025. And then with the proposal for this new generator set to replace our fleet of generators, it's going to provide that auxiliary power supply for all of our remote sites. It's going to give us remote monitoring capabilities for those generator sets so that Mike can do some diagnostics before he drives up the hill. And then third, it gives us one PM set of equipment so that Mike can grab his crate full of filters and belts and parts, and it's the same set of stuff for each generator. And ultimately, like any other piece of equipment, there's a recommended service life. And in addition to that, this proposal also wires all of our sites to code now. And a lot of our sites were built in different eras where the standards and codes have changed, and this will align our sites with the modern requirements. So with this, I want to park on the numbers a little bit. The quote for the generators and related costs for installation sits at $318,463.40. It's a multifaceted purchase. The bulk of the purchase is the generators, and they're 12 to 18 weeks out. So we want to get them rolling. And then as they trickle in, the associated costs with installation will start to occur with the wiring and all of those different pieces and parts. And so the reason for the not to exceed of 350,000, which is substantially more than the 318 quoted, is any hiccup in delivery of generators, any change in copper wire, any change in anything, we wanted to be prepared to complete the project. All estimates are we won't get anywhere near that. In fact, it might come in a little bit lower, but the 318 is the quoted price right now. And this pricing is under a contract, a state contract that DPS secured for. It's the same set of generators that DPS acquired. And that was another key driver for this. Is one, it's already a recognized state best price. And two, most of our remote sites are co-located at or near a site with a Department of Public Safety facility. So the opportunity, not that we've ever gone there, but if there's a need for us to potentially ask them to help with service of the generators or vice versa, it's the same equipment. So there was the economies of scale piece there with that. And so that's the gist of this board action. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You read my mind. I know you do.
Well, I'm starting to learn what you want to ask.
About being economies of scale, one, huge. And in partnership with parallel agencies, which, has happened. So anyway, because I never look at cut sheets and I never dig down in the weeds, ever. I can tell you that from my experience, this vendor, in the legacy parts of the generators are so benchmarked, they don't get any more benchmarks than that. There's no surprises. And I like that. And like I say, maintenance can build their kits, their PM kits, and do the remote monitoring. These are all benchmark things that you roll nowadays. And so I'm, the presentation that staff and you have given is pretty much best practice, right in line.
We try. Scott, I worked for him for a lot of years, and he's a different guy now. He's smart and professional. It's great. It's great.
I'm with him.
So I had a conversation this morning with Bill Whittington about this. He raised a question to me.
Yes, I have your answer.
Good. So we have to, I think, add a little bit of language to the motion, which is.
So my apologies, Madam Chair, members of the board. I neglected to include the addendum referencing ARS 38-511, which any purchases over $100,000 from a vendor, the vendor has to ensure that they will not be boycotting Israel, or they will not be using forced labor of ethnic Uyghurs. And so I neglected. Yeah, I neglected to have that language in the board action. So Mr. Whittington's recommended course of action, if you do choose to approve this purchase, is to state, move to approve the board communication for Gentech Telecom Generator Project in the amount of 318,463.40, not to exceed, with the addendum added to the agreement.
It would be good best practice if Mr. Whittington provided thresholds and addendums that were just required anyways.
He did provide that today after our conversation. Because I was not aware of this
I
particular
think that, I
error.
think in all the change that has transpired over the past several months, one of the things that appears to have just disappeared a little bit is who is the focal point for those, who would have them, who should he be giving them to, and a few things like that. Suffice it to say, it's, to me, I think it's all good with the language you're talking about. So I would entertain a motion for the approval of the Gentech Telecom generator project purchase in the amount of $318,463.40, but not to exceed $350,000 with the attachment of the small contract addenda.
So moved.
Second, any discussion?
Unneeded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay? Please.
What?
We're all set. You want to talk about the approval of the EMS Week proclamation?
Yes, so it is EMS week. And sorry, I lost my page.
18th to 24th.
Yeah, EMS week is, there is a proclamation in your packet. Would you like to read it?
Well, I've lost my page, so just a second. Here we are.
I neglected to print it.
Okay. The EMS Week proclamation, EMS Week is May 18 to 24, 2025. We care for everyone. The proclamation is to designate the week of May 18 to 24, 2025 as Emergency Medical Services Week, EMS Week. Whereas EMS is a vital public service, and whereas the members of Sedona Fire District's EMS teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas EMS fills healthcare gaps by providing important information, out-of-hospital care, including preventative medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas the EMS system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of EMS teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and accomplishments of emergency medical services providers by designating the Emergency Medical Services Week. Now, therefore, the Sedona Fire District Governing Board, in recognition of this event, we do hereby proclaim the week of May 18 to 24, 25 as Emergency Medical Services Week. The 51st anniversary of EMS Week theme is EMS Week, We Care for Everyone. We encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities in honor of the EMS profession and the essential services it provides.
All right, proclamated.
Proclamated. Okay.
Should have more whereases in it. These ones are always hard to read.
So do we have any additional board member updates or ideas for future meetings? Give you all the first go. All right, then I will say briefly that the final results are not all in for Keep Your Pet Fire Safe Week. Our partners, the Sedona Community Center and the Verde Valley Caregivers, are continuing to install rescue retrievers with their clients. So I think that's great. I will say, and I kudos to Jordan and to Matt Spinelli for the social media campaign. I think we got, for non-emergency posts, we got a really good response. And we did it also on Nextdoor, and we got on average about 700 or 800 views of each of the posts throughout the week. So that's just on Nextdoor. That's in addition to the I think on average about 1,000 responses we got on the social media more broadly. So, and I am just finishing up delivering treats to the fire stations and the shifts. I have one more shift to do. But it was what I would call a modest success, and I think it was a great place to start. And I will just share one small thing. I came in yesterday morning briefly to the front desk and met our new receptionist, Audrey. But as I was there, a woman came in and was talking to Isaiah Moore, and some of the CRR folks, and about her Chihuahua. And she was concerned that if our firefighters came in and she had to go, that her Chihuahua would be left. And it was wonderful for me for two reasons. One, to see the empathy of the response that she got, and also to see that I think this is prompted by people seeing the Keep Your Pet Fire Safe, that they're asking questions about it. So I'm very pleased with the way it went.
Isaiah has his moments.
Yeah.
More good than bad these days. She's trending the right way.
So any other items of business? If not, this meeting is adjourned.
I will get the addendum appropriately addendized and have it.
The city of